It doesn't set the scene properly. Ruth knew life wasn't, well, that life didn't follow the rules or precepts that ruled life on stage. She was a grown woman, not a girl, despite rarely truly feeling the former, though even as a girl she'd known that much. Perhaps it was one of the first lessons life, father, had taught her, in fact. Still, it felt insulting that on this day of all days, life, the creator, the gods, whoever it was ruling the universe, couldn't see to it that an exception was made, that there couldn't be a bit of atmosphere, a scene set, to honour a man whose entire life had been devoted to the theatre. To any of us who have. A scene such as this, a sad, sorry scene, full of grief, woe and pain, should not be set to glorious sunshine and beauty. Ruth knew from experience such a scene should be set to shuddering thunder and apocalyptic rain. It should be grey and lamentable and mournful. In their world, anyone who attempted to discard such rules of dramaturgy would be ruthlessly mocked and summarily cast far from any place of theatrical endeavour. Father would have laughed. In fact, he would have been happy, might be, up there, laughing at us all, that it wasn't so sad and sorry, but joyful. He would have said that he'd specifically asked for this to be a celebration of his life, not a sad goodbye, and the heavens were merely granting his wish. Only Ruth wanted a sad goodbye. She wanted the world, or at the very least this corner of it, to feel as gloomy as she did. She wanted them to know today was a sad day, not a good day. And not solely for me. Lifting her head slightly, she cast her eyes around the gathered crowd, which couldn't even be considered a crowd, barely a troupe, all heads bowed in silent contemplation and prayer as the man dressed in black and white droned on with the words from his mighty book. You'd think he'd know his lines better by now. He looks to be as old as this church. That was another thing which sat uncomfortably with Ruth. Not the vicar's lack of memorization, or even his generally bored and unemotive countenance, but the fact that there was a vicar involved to begin with. That they were in a churchyard, burying father all good and proper, when his life had been anything but, and when her father hadn't even been a believer in the one true God and all that. Her father, like her and others of their ilk, was a pagan of sorts, who worshipped the old gods of theatre. Yet apparently her father's wishes had been unmistakably clear on the matter. The note he'd scrawled in his final days and slipped to his solicitor had read something along the lines of, "Suppose 'tis better to be safe than sorry. I was baptized in the faith, and should therefore exit the world according to its rites, if only for poetic symmetry. Having my body interred beneath my theatre would be most inconvenient and impractical." Poetic symmetry indeed. Humph. However, beyond the fact that she supposed there weren't many alternatives to this particular spectacle, not like we could give him some Norse funeral, it was what father had wanted, and therefore Ruth was here, respecting his wishes. Father had always been a slightly incomprehensible man to her, and this all was just further fodder for that fire. But then, on the other hand, Ruth knew that like most of those who chose a life such as they did, he danced to his own singular tune. Even at the end, it seems. The others didn't seem so bothered by all this pomp and circumstance, so she supposed she shouldn't be either. Only, it had taken half a lifetime for her and father to become father and daughter. Therefore, she couldn't really help feeling cheated in a sense, that this whole spectacle wasn't quite right. Glancing at the gathered bunch of them, she took some comfort and peace in their steady presence. Some years ago, or perhaps